damn years. It's a long time. It's too long. But we're ready to try to fire it up. First thing I have to do is recalibrate the throttle position sensor. Got the laptop hooked up here. Let's turn the key and see if we have life. Oh, I hear the fuel pump. Oh, look at that. Signs of life. Let's go ahead and try to, let's see if I can even remember where the throttle sensor calibration. Calibrate TPS, I do remember it. Okay. Let's make sure it's closed. Get current. And then let's go to full throttle. Okay, let's go ahead and accept that. And as you can see on the throttle position gauge there, we're at 0, 100%. You know, close enough to 0, close enough to 100%. All right, so there are signs of life. Let's look at the fuel pressure gauge. Okay. There's a little bit of gas still in the tank. Let's shut her off. Let's let the fuel pump prime one more time. It's definitely up there. One more time. You can actually hear when it starts going back into the tank. Let's do it one more time. Yep. Fuel is circulating. Everything looks good. TPS sensors reading. Battery voltage is rather low. The battery is kind of weak. It really needs to be replaced. All right, let's go prime it and see if she'll fire. This is good so far. If you're going to start an engine that's been sitting for a while, the one thing you absolutely have to do is mark the distributor, pull it, spin the oil pump, prime the engine. You have to get the oil everywhere. It's been sitting for 2 years. The oil is all drained down to the pan. There's nothing up at the valve train, the rocker arms. It's a good way to wipe out things like valve guides and all this other stuff. So the best way to do it, at least what I've discovered over the years, is the first thing you have to do is you have to mark the distributor. There's already a mark in the dart block right there. So we need to mark the distributor right here. So this is just a little scribe. And I'll just scribe a mark. This just gets us in the ballpark, incidentally. This doesn't really set the timing. We're going to have to actually set the timing ourselves, because if you've been following along in the videos, you'll note that I made a new crankshaft position sensor pickup mount, which means that the timing is probably not going to be, well, it's certainly not going to be on. How far out it's going to be, I don't know, but it should be close enough to at least fire. So now that we have a mark on our distributor, let me go get a Sharpie. And we also have to mark the relation of the rotor. So let's take the cap off. So we have a mark on our distributor down where it meets the block. We also need to mark where the rotor is, because the rotor, when we put the distributor back in, I just put a little red dot on the inside of that cap, the lower cap. That way we know that when we drop the distributor back in, it's in the right spot. So now we got to pull the distributor out. You know, and I've been working on this car for 10 million years, so I know exactly what it is. It's a 1/2-inch bolt that holds in the retainer. So we'll just take that off with an offset wrench in this case. You know, make sure there's no trash around there that's going to fall in. You know, it's got to be relatively clean. And then you kind of have to wiggle this out. Pulling a distributor that's been seated for a long time can be a challenge. And you see how the rotor turned because it's engaging the gear, the cam gear specifically. All right, so we got it that far out. Well, that was actually less of a challenge than I expected it to be. Let me set this off to the side. You don't want to wank around too much with that thing. Now I have to dig up my priming tool. It's a little tight up here. Let's see if I can even find this thing. Well, that took a lifetime. Here's my priming tool that I made years ago. It's from the bottom of an old distributor. It's got a hardened pin going through to this 1/4" shaft, which I've ground 3 flats on because once you start priming this, you'll see what I mean. The best way really to do this is with the valve covers off so you can see the oil flowing up. But basically what's going to happen is at first it's going to turn real easy, then it's going to turn hard. And if you're keeping the valve covers on like I am, basically once your heavy duty drill starts to smoke, it's primed. If you're using a non-heavy duty drill, when it melts and falls into a puddle on the floor, it's primed. So my loving child is over there shooting the oil pressure gauge. Let's line this up. Oh, very important, backwards. You run this in backwards rotation. Yeah, that's got a lot of run out, doesn't it? Here, let's see if we can fix that. Let's see. Whatever, it'll work. Okay. So we go down and search for the hole. Something we've all had to do at one time or another. All right, let's make sure we've engaged. We've engaged. Set to reverse rotation.
It's going up.
Oh, it's hard now. It's going up?
Yep.
What's it reading?
Almost 70.
Almost 70, wow. This takes longer than you would think. And you'll hear the drill power down. Here it comes. I can smell her. She's starting to burn. What's the pressure gauge reading?
Like 65-ish.
65. Yeah, that's about good for a cold idle. Oh, there it goes. You can hear it. It goes in phases as it starts shoving oil through all the different passages. Just keep setting down. Try to keep the vents open. I can smell the drill. Oil pressure gauge reading, please.
A little over 60.
Little over 60. As the drill gets loaded down, it's going again. The oil pressure is actually dropping. No, it won't. It'll stay there. In fact, you can stop recording. We know it has oil pressure. All right, the drill is smoking. We'll call that primed. There you go. I told you guys. Yeah, she's primed. And that is how to prime a motor. All right, I'm going to put the distributor back in, and then we'll connect the plug wires, and we'll go from there. Oh, my poor DeWalt drill. Used to work on the DeWalt advertising account. That's where I got this thing. Oh, look, there's oil everywhere. We'll let that thing cool down. The drill, she is still smoking. All right, so now getting it in can sometimes be a bit of a song and dance too. That's too easy. Because you have to line up the hex drive with the right gear tooth. There's a little bit of the old in and out, in and out. It's a movie I've never seen because I can't bring myself to watch movies like that. But go ahead and name that movie. But see, it's not seating all the way. I'm not sure that you can see that. Which is, and actually I can't even find my mark anymore. But the reason why it's not seating all the way down is because it's not engaged into the shaft. But it's on the right tooth. So sometimes you got to play a few games. Now that's seated all the way down, but it's nowhere near the mark. And I see actually my scribe mark now. It's right here. So we're off a tooth at this point. So let's disengage. See if we can convince it to. Sometimes if that happens, you got to kind of take the priming tool and turn it over. All right, so it took me a long time to find that thing. The drill is still smoking hot. So let's take the distributor out. I think anybody who refers to a distributor as a dizzy should be excommunicated. I don't know exactly what that means in this case, but there we go. All right, so we'll go in there, we'll engage the drive. This is sort of a, you know, try and try again type of process, generally speaking. If I can even turn it by hand. Which I cannot do. Of course not. Saints be praised, we got it. That took about 10 million tries. That should put us somewhere in the ballpark. It's important that you get the timing at least somewhere in the ballpark in order for the car to start. That was excruciatingly irritating. But it's not a place to sort of cheat, if you know what I mean. Because close enough in this case is not close enough. I'll just snug it down a little bit. I'm going to wipe off my greasy paw prints. All right. This thing is brand spanking new. And now we just have to connect the plug wires. And we should be good to go. All right, so I will do that off camera, and then I'll bring you back at the moment of truth. If the battery's got enough power and I got the plug wires right, let's see what happens. All right, it sees it. Let's give it a crank. She lives. First try, too. Man, you gotta love that. Sounds a little rough. Oil pressure's good. 60 psi cold. We're gonna see a lot of smoke because of all the header paint and everything else. That's still not cured. But hey, it's idling on its own. It's always a good sign. Let's take a look. First, let's look here. All right, pulse width looks fine, throttle position's okay, engine speed is good, ignition advance is okay, air fuel is actually decent too. Coolant temperature is a little cold, but it's warming up and it matches the gauge in the dash. Let's go take a look around. Two long years, and she fired on the first crank. God, I love this car. Plenty of smoke.